Now continuing from our previous lecture, we need to talk about unary minus operator. So the unary minus operator is denoted by the symbol minus. When this operator is used before a variable, its value is negated. That means if the variable value is positive, it would be converted into negative and vice versa. So let us take an example. Let me take a variable as n and give it a value of 10. And if I try to use this unary minus operator, that means I would use a minus operator, that is a minus symbol with the n. And if I print that, you can see I got a minus 10. So that was something basic. And if I need to perform vice versa, if I have m and the value is minus 20, and if I try to print minus m, that is the negative of m, I would get 20. That means the negative becomes a positive and we got 20. So this was something basic and you can utilize that in some programs. Next thing I need to talk about is relational operator. So with the term relational, we can assume that it is used to compare two quantities or bring out some relation between two quantities or two variables. We can understand whether two values are same. One can be a bigger value, one can be some smaller value. We can compare them, or we can use some condition to understand if that particular condition is true or false. So two values can be compared with the help of relational operators. So let us do that. So here, for example, if I take A as 10 and let us take B as 15 for a while. And if I need to perform some relational operators, the first one I want to perform is A greater than B. So if I take a variable as C and if I perform relational operator like A is greater than B, now if the condition is right, that means we are going to get a true as a result. If the condition is wrong, we are going to get a false. Let me print my variable C. You can see we got a result of false. That means A is not greater than B. And if I try to perform A is greater than equal to B, and if I try to print the result, you can see it again gives me false result. That means A is neither greater or equal to B. But what if I try to do opposite? If I check if A is less than B here and print the result along with C, you can see that is true. That means 10 is less than 15. That is obvious and we got the result as true. And if I try to do A is less than equals to B, we will be getting a true itself. So let me do that and print out the value of C. You can see I got the true. Now if we need to compare the value of 2, we cannot use a single equals to. That means if I need to check if A is equals to B, I cannot do that. With the help of single equals to, it means it will assign the value of B to A. What I need to do is I need to use double equals to and then compare. So if I take the value into C and try to print out the C, so this will give me a result of false. That means A is not equals to B. For now, change out the value and then check that again. So if I do A equals to 10 and B equals to 10 for a while, and if I try to perform the same thing, that is A equals to B, that means we are comparing if A is equals to B. And if I print out this particular value, that is C, you can see it is true. That means the value of A is equals to the value of B. And the last relation operator is not equals to. So at here A and B are equal. What if I try to compare them if they are not equal? So if I try to compare them with the not symbol, that is exclamation mark, and then print out the value of C, you can see we are getting false. Here I was telling that A is not equals to B, but in real life A is equals to B because both are 10. But what I was stating that A is not equals to B. So that is wrong. A is equals to B. I hope now you understand relational operators. Next we need to talk about logical operators. So with the term logical, we can assume we need to perform some logical function. So they are of three types. One is AND, then OR, then NOT. In simple words, they are used to compare the condition. So AND means if all the conditions are successful, then we are going to get true. OR means any one condition should be fulfilled and we will get a true. NOT is used when we want to convert from true to false and false to true. So let me take an example. Let me take x as 100 and y as 200 and z as 300. Now if at any point of time I want to use relation between them and apply two relation at a time and then compare them, at that point of time I need to use logical operation. So suppose I need to perform that z is greater than x, and I also need to perform z is greater than y. So if this case is true, then I can do some certain task. But how I am going to do these two separate tasks? So at this point of time, we need to check both cases. And if any of them is wrong, we cannot proceed. So then we use AND. That means these both cases should be true and then we can proceed. And here if I do that, it is true. So if I perform them individually, that means if I go with z is greater than x, it is true. If I try to do z is greater than y, it is true. That means these both cases were true, then we can get this true option. If any one of them was wrong, we would get a false. Let me do that. And if I use y is greater than z, which is wrong because 200 is less than 300. And if I see, it is false because this condition is wrong. Now let us talk about OR. So OR means from these two cases, one should be true. That means if one is true, one is false, it is okay. I would perform the same line with OR. So I need to use OR and then y is greater than z. You can see I got a result of true because from these two cases, at least one should be correct. Here z is greater than x is correct, whereas y is greater than z is false. So when we take OR, it means at least one case should be correct, and for AND, both the cases should be correct. Now we need to talk about NOT operator. So it just gives a reverse result. So if we have something as true, it will give us false. So let me try out if z is greater than x. So I go with z is greater than x, I got a true. And if I try out NOT and then z is greater than x, I got a false because it just reversed the result. So if you check, we got z is greater than x, which is true, and NOT of true is false. So it just reversed out the result. The last operator we need to talk about is Boolean. So as you know, bool is true and false. So this basically is a combination of logical operator and assignment operator. So if I take a value of a as true and b as false. Now if I try to perform the same logical operators, that is AND, OR and NOT, you can try out and play with that. And if I do A and A, that means true and true, I will get a true because here A is true and A is true. And if I try to do A and B, that means A is true, B is false. When we use AND, both should be true. I get a false because both are not true. If I do A or B, that means at least one should be true. Here A is true, and if I do that, we got a true. And if I want to do that with NOT, so I know A is true. If I do NOT A, I got a false. So that was Boolean operator. I hope you understand that. So that's all for operators. It was a bit lengthy, but it was really informative. In the next lectures, we'll be talking about input, output, and we'll start working with IDE. That is our atom. So see you in the next lecture.